After the funeral games of Patroclus are over, the Achaeans scatter and return to their ships and tents. But Achilles keeps on grieving for his friend. He cannot sleep, gets up restless, and wanders up and down the shore where the waves crash and break. For many nights and days, Achilles is agonized. To relieve the pain, day after day, Achilles lashes the corpse of Hector to his chariot and drives around the tomb of Patroclus 3 times. However, Apollo takes pity upon Hector, even though he is dead, and makes sure that the body cannot be corrupted or torn up with gashes. Eventually, Apollo addresses the other immortals of Olympus, outraged that Achilles will not allow Hector to be given a proper burial. Hera argues with Apollo, but Zeus steps in and makes a final decision. Achilles must return the body of Hector, and Priam must give him a ransom in return. So Zeus sends Thetis to Achilles and Iris to Priam to tell them both of his decree. Priam and Achilles accept the message sent by Zeus. When Priam receives the message from Iris, he tells his sons to get a wagon ready. Priam himself goes down to his treasure chambers to select the items that he will ransom for his son's body. He calls out to his wife, Hecabe, and tells her of the message from Zeus, asks her what he should do. Hecabe begs Priam to not go down to the ships to try to ransom Hector's corpse. She believes that he will be killed. Priam, however, becomes resolved to make the attempt. I will go. My mind's made up. Don't hold me back. And don't go flying off on your own across the halls, a bird of evil omen. You can't dissuade me now. If someone else had commanded me, some mortal man, some prophet staring into the smoke, some priest, I'd call it a lie and turn my back upon it. Not now. I heard her voice with my own ears. I looked straight at the goddess, face to face. So I am going. Her message must not come to nothing. And if it is my fate to die by the beaked ships of Achaeans armed in bronze, then die I shall. Let Achilles cut me down straightway, once I've caught my son in my arms and wept my fill. He raised back the carved lids of the chests and lifted out 12 robes, handsome, rich brocades, 12 cloaks, unlined and light, as many blankets, as many big white capes and shirts to go with them. He weighed and carried out 10 full bars of gold, and took 2 burnished tripods, 4 fine cauldrons, and last, a magnificent cup the Thracians gave him once. He'd gone on an assembly and won that priceless treasure. But not even that did the old man spare in his halls, not now, consumed with desire to ransom back his son. Crowds of Trojans were mobbing his colonnades. He gave them a tongue lashing, sent them packing. Get out, you good-for-nothings, public disgraces! Haven't you got enough to wail about at home without coming here to add to all my griefs? You think it nothing, the pain that Zeus has sent me? He's destroyed my best son. You'll learn too, in tears. Easier game you'll be for Argive troops to slaughter, now my Hector's dead. But before I have to see my city annihilated, laid waste before my eyes, oh, let me go down to the house of death. He herded them off with his staff. They fled outside before the old man's fury. So he lashed out at his sons, cursing the sight of Helenus, Paris, noble Agathon, Pamon, Antiphonus, Polites, loud with the war cry, Dephobus, and Hippothous, even lordly Dios. The old man shouted at all nine, rough commands. Get to your work, my vicious sons, my humiliations. If only you'd all been killed at the fast ships, instead of my dear Hector. But I, dear God, my life so cursed by fate, I fathered hero sons in the wide realm of Troy, and now not a single one is left, I tell you. Mestor, the indestructible, and Troilus, passionate horseman, and Hector, a god among men, no son of a mortal man. He seemed a deathless gods, but Ares killed them all, and all he left me are these disgraces, liars, dancers, heroes only at beating the dancing rings. You plunder your own people for lambs and kids. Why don't you get my wagon ready? Now! At once! Pack all these things aboard. We must be on our way. Terrified by their father's rough commands, the sons trundled a mule wagon out at once, a good smooth running one, newly finished, balanced, and bolted tight, and strapped a big wicker cradle across its frame. They lifted off its hook a boxwood yoke for the mules, its bulging pommel fitted with rings for guide reins, brought out with the yoke its yoke strap 9 arms long, and wedged the yoke down firm on the sanded, tapered pole, on the front peg, and slipped the yoke ring onto its pin. Strapped the pommel with 3 good twists, both sides, then lashed the assembly round and down the shaft, and under the clamp they made the lashing fast. Then the priceless ransom for Hector's body, hauling it up from the vaults, they piled it high on the wagon's well-made cradle. Then they yoked the mules, stamping their sharp hooves, trained for heavy loads, that the Mysians once gave Priam princely gifts. And last, they yoked his team to the king's chariot. Stallions he bred himself in his own polished stalls. Before Priam leaves Troy, Hecate comes to him with a golden cup of honeyed wine, so that he might pour a libation to Zeus. Priam does this after washing his hands, and prays to Zeus for safe conduct. Zeus hears his prayer and sends an eagle flying on the right, a sign of his approval. As Priam and his herald head towards the Achaean camp, Zeus sends Hermes down to them to be their guide. Priam is at first terrified of Hermes, thinking that he is an Achaean who will kill and rob him. But Hermes reassures the king of Troy. Hermes tells Priam that he is in aid of Achilles, that the body of his son, Hector, is still in good condition, and that he will take him to see Achilles. So Hermes jumps into Priam's chariot and drives for him. When they reach the gates of the Achaean camp, Hermes puts the sentries to sleep and opens the gate for the wagon of treasure. Once they arrive at the shelter of Achilles, Hermes tells Priam who he is and leaves for Olympus. Priam gets off his battle car and walks into the lodge. Priam found the warrior there inside, many captains sitting some way off, but two, veteran Automedon and the fine fighter Alcimus, were busy serving him. They had just finished dinner, eating, drinking, and the table stood near. The majestic king of Troy slipped past the rest, and kneeling down beside Achilles, clasped his knees and kissed his hands, those terrible, man-killing hands that had slaughtered Priam's many sons in battle. Awesome as when the grip of madness seizes one who murders a man in his own fatherland and flees abroad to foreign shores, to a wealthy, noble host, and a sense of marvel runs through all who see him. So Achilles marveled, beholding majestic Priam. His men marveled too, trading startled glances. But Priam prayed his heart out to Achilles. Remember your own father, great godlike Achilles. As old as I am, past the threshold of deadly old age. No doubt the countrymen round him plague him now, with no one there to defend him, beat away disaster. No one. But at least he hears you're alive, and his old heart rejoices, hopes rising, day by day, to see his beloved son come sailing home from Troy. But I, dear God, my life so cursed by fate, I fathered hero sons in the wide realm of Troy, and now not a single one is left, I tell you. 50 sons I had when the sons of Achaea came, 19 born to me from a single mother's womb, and the rest by other women in the palace. Many, most of them violent Ares, cut the knees from under. But one was left me to guard my walls, my people, the one you killed the other day defending his fatherland, my Hector. It's all for him I've come to the ships now, to win him back from you. I bring a priceless ransom. Revere the gods, Achilles. Pity me in my own right. Remember your own father. I deserve more pity. I have endured what no one on earth has ever done before. I put to my lips the hands of the man who killed my son. Those words stirred within Achilles a deep desire to grieve for his own father. Taking the old man's hand, he gently moved him back, and overpowered by memory, both men gave way to grief. Priam wept freely for man-killing Hector, throbbing, crouching before Achilles' feet, as Achilles wept himself, now for his father, now for Patroclus once again, and their sobbing rose and fell throughout the house. Then, when brilliant Achilles had had his fill of tears, and the longing for it had left his mind and body, he rose from his seat, raised the old man by the hand, and filled with pity now for his gray hair and gray beard, he spoke out winging words, flying straight to the heart. Poor man, how much you've borne! Pain to break the spirit! What daring brought you down to the ships, all alone, to face the glance of the man who killed your sons? So many fine, brave boys. You have a heart of iron. Come, please, sit down on this chair here. Let us put our griefs to rest in our own hearts. Rake them up no more, raw as we are with mourning. What good's to be won from tears that chill the spirit? So the immortals spun our lives that we wretched men live on to bear such torments. The gods live free of sorrows. There are two great jars that stand on the floor of Zeus's halls and hold his gifts, our miseries one, the other blessings. When Zeus, who loves the lightning, mixes gifts for a man, now he meets with misfortune, now good times in turn. When Zeus dispenses gifts from the jar of sorrows only, he makes a man an outcast. Brutal, ravenous hunger drives him down the face of the shining earth, stalking far and wide, cursed by gods and men. So with my father, Peleus, what glittering gifts the gods rained down from the day that he was born. He excelled all men in wealth and pride of place. He lorded the Myrmidons. Immortal that he was, they gave the man an immortal goddess for a wife. Yes, but even on him the father piled hardships. No powerful race of princes born in his royal halls. Only a single son he fathered, doomed at birth, cut off in the spring of life. And I give the man no care as he grows old, since I sit here in Troy, far from my fatherland, a grief to you, a grief to all your children. And you too, old man, we hear you prospered once, as far as Lesbos, Makar's kingdom, bounds to seaward, Phrygia east and upland, the Hellespont vast in north. That entire realm, they say, you lorded over once. You excelled all men, old king, in sons and wealth. But then the gods of heaven brought this agony on you. Ceaseless battles round your walls, your armies slaughtered. You must bear up now. Enough of endless tears, the pain that breaks the spirit. Grief for your son will do no good at all. You will never bring him back to life. Sooner, you must suffer something worse. But the old and noble Priam protested strongly. Don't make me sit on a chair, Achilles, Prince. Not while Hector lies uncared for in your camp. Give him back to me, now. No more delay. I must see my son with my own eyes. Accept the ransom I bring you, a king's ransom. Enjoy it, all of it. Return to your own native land, safe and sound, since now you've spared my life. At this, Achilles starts to lose his cool and return to his angry state. No more, old man. Don't tempt my wrath. Not now. My own mind's made up to give you back your son. A messenger brought me word from Zeus, my mother, Thetis who bore me, the old man of the sea's daughter. And what's more, I can see through you, Priam. No hiding the fact from me. One of the gods has led you down to Achaea's fast ships. No man alive, not even a rugged young fighter, would dare to venture into our camp. Never. How could he slip past the sentries unchallenged, or shoot back the bolt of my gates with so much ease? So don't anger me now. Don't stir my raging heart still more. or under my own roof, I may not spare your life, old man, suppliant that you are, may break the laws of Zeus. Priam, terrified by Achilles, agrees to obey the order. Achilles and 2 of his men go and bring back inside the ransom in Priam's herald. However, they leave 2 capes and a finely woven shirt to cover Hector's body on the journey back to Troy. Achilles orders his serving women to bathe and anoint the corpse before Priam sees it. When all is done, Achilles and his men place Hector upon the wagon. Achilles returns to Priam and speaks. Your son is now set free, old man, as you requested. Hector lies in state. With the first light of day, you will see for yourself as you convey him home. Now, at last, let us turn our thoughts to supper. Even Niobe with her lustrous hair remembered food, though she saw a dozen children killed in her own halls. 6 daughters and 6 sons in the pride and prime of youth. True, Lord Apollo killed the sons with his silver bow, and Artemis, showering arrows, killed the daughters. Both gods were enraged at Niobe. Time and again, she placed herself on a par with their own mother, Leto, in her immortal beauty. How she insulted Leto. All you have borne is 2, but I have borne so many. So, 2 as they were, they slaughtered all her children. 9 days they lay in their blood, no one to bury them. Cronos' son had turned the people into stone. Then on the 10th, the gods of heaven interred them. And Niobe, gaunt, worn to the bone with weeping, turned her thoughts to food. And now, somewhere, lost on the crags, on the lonely mountain slopes, on Sipylus, where, they say, the nymphs who live forever, dancing along the Achelous river, run to beds of rest, there, struck into stone, Niobe still broods on the spate of griefs the gods poured out to her. So come, we too, old man, must think of food. Later you can mourn your beloved son once more, when you bear him home to Troy, and you'll weep many tears. So Achilles and his men prepare a feast. After they all have their fill, Priam asks to be put to bed. Achilles orders his men and serving women to make beds for Priam and his herald. Before Priam goes to sleep, Achilles asks him how many days he needs to properly bury his son. Priam tells him, and Achilles agrees to hold the Achaeans back from fighting until that time is up. In the middle of the night, Hermes returns to Priam and wakes him up. Not a care in the world, old man. Look at you, how you sleep in the midst of men who'd kill you. And just because Achilles spared your life. Now, yes, you've ransomed your dear son for a king's ransom. But wouldn't the sons you left behind be forced to pay 3 times as much for you alive? What if Atrides, Agamemnon, learns you're here? What if the whole Achaean army learns you're here? With the help of Hermes, Priam and his herald return to Troy with the body of Hector. Once they get Hector back inside the walls, the Trojans mourn for their fallen hero. Priam then gives orders to his people to haul timber into the city for Hector's pyre. At his command they harnessed oxen and mules to wagons. They assembled before the city walls with all good speed, and for 9 days hauled in a boundless store of timber. But when the 10th dawn brought light to the mortal world, they carried gallant Hector forth, weeping tears, and they placed his corpse aloft the pyre's crest, flung a torch, and set it all aflame. At last, when young Dawn with her rose-red fingers shone once more, the people massed around illustrious Hector's pyre. And once they'd gathered, crowding the meeting grounds, they first put out the flames with glistening wine, wherever the flames still burned in all their fury. Then they collected the white bones of Hector, all his brothers, his friends in arms, mourning, and warm tears came streaming down their cheeks. They placed the bones they found in a golden chest, shrouding them round and round in soft purple clothes. They quickly lowered the chest in a deep hollow grave, and over it piled a cope of huge stones closely set, then hastily heaped a barrow, posted lookouts all around for fear the Achaean combat troops would launch their attack before the time agreed. And once they'd heaped the mound, they turned back home to Troy, and gathering once again, they shared a splendid funeral feast in Hector's honor, held in the house of Priam, king by will of Zeus. And so the Trojans buried Hector, breaker of horses.